Hello, my babies, and welcome once again to the Galfond Challenge brought to you by Run It Once Poker and Much Better. I am Uncle Daddy Joe Stapleton. With me on the line is Run It Once coach Kevin Rabichow. What's up, my dude?
Hey everyone, happy to be here. Thanks, Daves.
We've got 4,500 happening on table two. Ace, King, Trey, two spades.
Yeah, it's this, I think second time already, or maybe third time that Phil bet small on this kind of board. I'm assuming that's just his
A
default.
coincidence?
I think he probably just. I mean, he's gonna bet pot sometimes, I guess, but uh, seems like way more often he likes the small bet.
He's opted for small sizing again on the turn. Would you possibly choose a sizing like this when you don't have a whole lot to protect against?
Yeah, pretty much like. I mean, if I'm using like no limit logic, it's usually hands that are extremely strong,
Yeah,
or hands that are quite marginal
that makes sense.
and would benefit from him folding like a small amount of equity. Like if he just has a naked gut shot or something like that,
Like
and he
top set and two flush draws. Is that even possible? That would be a
yeah,
reason you might
and
bet small
it's
here and then move
seems
all in when
awfully
you get
likely
raised.
now that he puts it in quickly against a raise.
I got a good feeling about this one, guys. He had the diamond draw and he had
Oh
top
yeah,
set. Top set ends up being full house with the six pairing on the river. Another big one. Table one says next poker phenom. All right, let's focus our attention there.
yeah. Check on the turn. Has to Not has to, but I would think it's in Venividi's favor when it goes check on the turn. Let's see what happens here. Pretty good bluff spot, I think. Like difficult for Phil to do much about this. It's gotta just click call sometimes with a weak hand.
He does not click call this time.
Yeah. Someone
And
revenue asked in the chat about Phil focusing on pot control. Sorry, I'll let this big hand play out first on table two.
table two, we got 8,300 out there. It's been checked to fill in position. And Phil pots it. Are we about to see another five-figure pot shipped Phil's way? And he
Looks
is
like it.
indeed going to win with the nuts. Look at that straight flush draw on the turn. How do you like that? Run it once, poker. Phil Galfond, so green. And the chat goes wild. What were you saying over there? Hold on, maybe this table one hand, and then we'll get back to what you were.
Yeah.
A guy named Calm in the chat says he's doing it. Everyone stay calm. Stay effing calm. Check to Phil again in position. Three jacks on board.
Seems pretty interesting. Like Phil's gonna have more Jack X hands here, I think, but not tons. Venividi might have to bluff catch here. He might just like try bluff catching with
What's the worst
aces,
hand you bluff
I
catch with,
guess.
like eights or nines?
Well, I think it's going to depend on like his side cards as well. Like if he has,
Blockers.
yeah, if he has some kind of pair with like ace king king or ace king queen, he doesn't interfere with Phil's like low
Oh, but
nines.
man, bluff catching not going to work when you're up against quads. Swiper boots one. What if any said, "Whoa, you got my number now. Better quit the challenge." This is match number 1, but it's their 9th session. And they're a little more than a quarter of the way through this. Phil Galfond down 400,000 euros plus.
Pretty big one here on table 2.
He is doing A-OK so far, 18,000. They are playing for on table 2. Ace, ace, 8-5, 2 hearts. A little green queen out there as well.
Small bet. Interesting. think it was a four bet by Venividi pre-flop, and then Phil check calls the flop, check on the turn. Looks like he's trying to either bluff cheaply or set his price with like an ace.
Momentum, mo problems for Venividi in this case.
I've heard Phil talk. I forget. It was probably an old video. I've heard him talk before about the like the first time you use a new bet size. He's been using like he's been using like small bet, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the same spot, and then switching to a different bet size in the same spot for the first time. It's like a big psychological. I don't know. It's just like a bit of a trick or an exploit. The way people perceive it. So.
Well, if Phil learned a new bet sizing, this is like his Karate Kid crane kick moment. Because he has been smacking Venividi around for the last half hour or so. He's just raised Venividi. Table 1 gets a fold. He continues to climb. Venividi betting half pot, large pot. Table 2, 3 clubs on board. 2 sixes. If Phil can manage to take this one down too, this will be some serious momentum. 15,000 nearly out there now. Venividi's turn bet called. Will he fire river? Is it tough to fire even with a flush here after you get called on the, well, he has bet all in.
He didn't take much time with that one.
No, forget. I strike the question from the record.
It almost seemed like he bet like slightly larger than he normally would have on the turn, just so that he could definitely get all in on the river. That was my impression when I saw the turn bet. Because I've seen him bet smaller in these spots. He bet half pot.
This feels like you're up against a very strong hand. You can see why Phil is taking his time.
Yeah.
Venividi does tend to come up with it in these spots. Phil folds. And he's going to show down a chop pot on table number 1. Did you know everyone loves a chop pot?
Everyone involved in the hand?
Yeah, no, everyone.
Just everyone.
People who haven't even heard of poker, they still love a chop pot.
It's a little heartwarming. Compete against each other and then, just take one off.
Niners Smash. Well, actually, nobody loves the chop pot. I will allow that here on Chat Pro Saturday. Lots of folks chiming in with that. 8,400 in the middle, table 2. The big open ender gets there. No flushes get there. And we've got a pretty big pot on table number 1, also on the turn. Phil bets full pot, table 2. And Phil's turn bet gets called by Venividi, table 1. Back to table 2, where Venividi folds. Phil up to 72,000 over there. Table 1.
I think the ace is a pretty good river for Phil.
Well, Phil's bet half pot. 5 figures.
The ace was not a good river for Phil.
Not good. It was the opposite of good for him.
It seems like still pretty good for Phil. Venividi's been making a good number of strong hands since like that first half hour. And he really hasn't lost that much in the pots where Venividi had the best hand.
Pretty much the opposite of what's usually been happening.
Mm-hmm.
Queen Jack 8-6 on table number 1, 2 spades. Straight draws up the wazoo. Pot size bet on table number one. Couple of genuine questions in chat about how long they're going to play for today. They're going to play 3 total hours today. And hour number one is just about complete. $10,000, 5-figure pot, left-hand side, table number one. Venividi betting pot once again. Phil calls real fast with 9-8.
9-5.
9-5. That's going to win. Phil wins. And we've got an interesting bet sizing. 2/3 pot. 3/4 pot? I don't know. 3/4.
Yeah, don't see that one much. Usually people going real small or just the maximum.
Yeah, I mean 3/4 feels like pot to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm guessing someone who's played as much online as I assume Venividi has, he's probably got a reason for it. Some particular adjustment that he has studied or decided is best for some reason.
Toshi said, sad to hear Venny's name pronounced correctly today. What? We should be calling him Wenny Weedy? Forgot about the Wenny Weedy pronunciation. What if that's how he pronounces it? Wenny Weedy shows down 4 diamonds.
Would that be the is it Latin?
Yes.
Is that where that comes? That would be the Latin pronunciation, no?
Yeah.
Wenividi? Yeah.
Wenny Weedy Wiki.
This came up before, I assume.
Yeah. I brought it up because I took Latin in high school, and then another one of the co-commentators, I think it might have been Tonka, although it sounds way too smart for something Tonka would say.
Ouch.
Venividi raising this river bet from Phil. 3 hearts, double paired board.
Pretty interesting. You like. Ugh.
I'm getting some hole card glitches, but it looks like that's good for Venividi. I saw at least 1 9 in his hand.
Yeah, top full house there.
He had
Not
pocket
not top
nines.
full house, but he had 9-4.
9-4. Okay.
Yeah. Don't usually see bet sizes like that in no limit on the double paired board because just like any random 4 is the same as the other one. But I guess a lot more like large betting and raising happening when your kicker makes a huge difference. Or you could just have quads, I guess.
Good catch there from Swiper Boots, a 49er hand. What are you doing for the big game tomorrow, K-Rab?
Good question. Didn't have plans. You know, I'm not the biggest NFL fan.
You don't say.
But I'll probably watch. I'll probably watch. Just got a new TV service set up yesterday, so I might as well take advantage of it.
Excellent. Showdown table 2. We got the small flush for Venividi.
Straight for Phil there. It's unfortunate.
Where are you broadcasting from, K-Rab?
Just outside Toronto. I'm in Waterloo, Ontario.
Waterloo, home of Michael McDonald.
That's right. Mike's a neighbor of mine.
Oh boy, oh boy. Is he like a holy terror around town? Does he run around like he's Bruce Wayne?
If he was here more often, he probably would. Yeah, that sounds right.
Have you got any action on poker shares?
I don't. I'm not a sharp user or just any kind of user of poker shares.
Sharp. I like that. I only started hearing that phrase recently.
I mean, it is basically a sports book. I think that's more of like a sports betting thing, but yeah.
Big pot, table number 1, and about to be big on 2. Nope. False alarm, table 2. Table 1. We got 12,596 euros and 50 cents.
See someone in the chat is partial to Kitchener over Waterloo. I'm just barely into Waterloo from Kitchener. Short walk to Kitchener.
Are you guys aware of the legend of Kitchener Leslie?
What is that?
It's a character from Norm MacDonald's book as Venividi folds table one. Phil was up as high as 72, 73,000 on table two, now back down to around 50, depending on what happens in this pot. There it is. Micro Grinder asks, what is this? Is Phil up today? Are graphics wrong? The graphics are not wrong. Phil is up. What a boss, too, the statement he released, huh? What a boss.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, I'm down 400,000. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm not going to play like a crazy person to try to get back. I'm just going to play my game and enjoy the show. What a boss. We've got two figure pots before we've even reached the turn. Table one, 21,000 in the middle on the turn. This feels a lot like aces. But that river card is sweaty as heck.
Yeah, that card could favor Phil with some hands, but Venny calling on the turn makes it way more likely that it helps him.
Yeah. Certainly calling would lead you to believe that you are on some sort of draw a lot of the time.
But Phil could, I mean, if Phil has the nut flush here, it would be totally reasonable to check the river.
And Venividi's all in for his last 11,000.
Well, he hasn't called yet, so I doubt he has the nut flush.
Yeah, this is probably a pretty bad spot for Phil if he hasn't called yet. It's not that much more.
And he will run into some bluffs. He can run into like 10-9-9 X or something like that.
I mean, given that Venividi doesn't have a ton of fold equity there, is he going to be bluffing very often?
Not very often, no. But he just makes a flush so often that, you know, if he really did just have trash there on the river, he can probably get away with bluffing most of it.
All right, so we're about a quarter of the way through the second of 3 hours. Speaking of 3 hours, starting on Monday, as we do, there's going to be a new promotion called Splashy Hours for 6 hours every day, 3 of which will be during our broadcast. The rake back given through Splash the Pot will be increased to up to 60%. I think they might be doing that in lieu of double the winnings, since double the winnings hasn't been working out. Massive pot table two. Holy ship.
Yeah, big bet here.
Phil putting this is one of the single biggest bets we've seen. 43,000 is the raise. Venividi folds and sits out. It looks like that stack reduction is about to happen. These guys taking what appears to be their first break of the day. We're back, my babies. Action once again underway. I don't know if the tables look different to anyone else.
Did they just switch orientation on us?
Yeah, they did. Orientation is not a choice, you guys. Table 1 already with a pot of over 7,000. Yeah, it's all happening already. Remember, you guys are watching the Phil Galfond Challenge on Run It Once Poker. Today is the very last day to become a legend on Run It Once. Play your first real money hand today. Get extra perks. You unlock a couple of training courses. Those are worth a couple $100 to my knowledge. And also you unlock extra rake back for something like 8 weeks. And if you're going to deposit, this challenge also sponsored in part by Much Better Payment Processor. Canadian Luke taking full advantage of Chat Pro Saturdays, saying, well, actually, it's the Galfond Challenge. As we get a big raise from Venividi on the turn, table number 1. Spades and hearts. Phil calls this spade, draw, hits the river.
Pretty similar to that spot we talked about right before the break. Just like a lot of money getting pushed in on the turn, but Phil's choosing to call, presumably with some kind of draw that he didn't want to just force all in on the turn. Wants to call and try and get a good river.
Venividi all in for his last 7,400 on this river. And again, yeah, I'd say similar spot. Phil hasn't snap called. This bet isn't huge relative to the size of the pot, but Phil obviously not in love with his hand.
Yeah. His like really good like 2 pairs and sets probably don't just call on the turn.
Phil calls, loses to the jack high flush. Phil with the ace blocker.
Yeah, he did improve on the river, but not enough.
Well, Beat says vomit. Fills up a couple of buy-ins until that moment. He's going to have a chance to get some back on table 2 as we have another 5-figure pot.
I do like the look of those big chips. You mentioned the 1Ks earlier, that 5K, it's a pretty cool graphic.
Straighten eyes. And this is the sort of action and runouts we've been used to seeing in this Galfond challenge. Things seem to be going back to normal after the first break of the day. With Phil taking it on the chin in multiple pots since we've been back.
Yeah, this table 2 pot is interesting. He bet small. Phil bet small on the flop and on the turn after 3-betting.
And now Venividi bets full pot after it is checked to him on this river.
Wow. Gotta think Phil just turned a monster here and was willing to bet small with it.
Phil all in. Will he show down the 89?
Really tough spot for Venny if he doesn't have any good blockers to the straight.
Venny
Yeah.
folds. Phil manages to keep that lead. There will be double splash the pot winnings today. Step for Life asks, what is Splash the Pot anyway? From what I understand, there's just random bonuses sprinkled into pots. You know who should tell us about it is Kevin. To be honest, Kevin.
That's exactly right. I mean, the idea is that some of the rewards on Run It Once get distributed. I'll call it randomly. You just get, and there's a link in the chat here that just got dropped as well. You can get really small splashes, just like an extra big blind, or you can get really huge ones, up to 1,000 big blinds. They just drop into the pot before the flop, and you play out the rest of the hand accordingly.
Aaron Weir says, well, actually, I'm counting on double splash the pot to pay rent today. Well, now we're all pulling for a Phil Galfond win a little bit harder. Big pot, table 2. Big pot, table 1. 2 goes to Venividi. 1 action on Phil in position. Phil bets full pot. All of the flop draws. Well, I guess 2-4 got there. Many of the flop draws missed. Board pairs on the river.
Yeah, this is a tricky.
Venividi calls. Phil shows down the 2-4.
Nice.
Aha! You caught yourself, Stapes.
Were you gonna say the king?
No, I just mean
yeah,
like no. When I said no flop draws got there, I was like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That's right, David. Wheelie good hand. J Mang.
Pretty tough spot he put Venny in there. On that board, it's so hard for him to have a good hand.
Yeah. J Mang taking full advantage of Chat Pro Saturday. Well, actually, rent isn't due today if you signed a lease where you have a late fee period. That is some fantastic Chat Pro action. We've got a 4-bet on table 1. Over 10,000 in the middle.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Venny lead here.
4-bet alert.
Really good board for him.
Step for Life asks, hey, Staves, can you request an interview with Venividi at some point? Yeah, I'll request it. Thanks for your question. 4-bet pot, once again. Is this a wet board? 2 clubs, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, yeah.
Seems pretty wet to me.
I like that Venny leads like a small size there and doesn't just like blast away, because I think Phil's decision is much harder versus like the 1/3 pot bet than it is versus full pot.
Nine days times 4. Yeah, that works. 36 days, huh? Phil betting pot. Table 1 getting called. Neither player has a flush. And Venividi bluff catching.
Yeah. Second pair there, I
Correctly.
think. Unless I made my first misread, I think that was just a really light call, and he was correct.
Big pot, table 2. Raised by Phil. All in and call. Phil misses his spade draw. The set of kings is going to hold up for Venividi.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Phil turned 2 pair.
Phil bets full pot, table 1. Phil getting called on table 2. They've gone to the river. Phil's getting raised on table 1. Venividi potting it. Phil folds. What was it the chat pro said last time? He bets too much on rivers and then folds too much.
I noticed that. Yeah, that crossed my mind as soon as I saw the raise come in again. I mean, it's possible that there's a read on that, but without knowing what Phil's folding, it would be so hard for Venividi to actually like determine that he's folding too much, because he needs him to fold like 2/3 the time or something.
I don't know if some idiot in chat noticed it. Maybe Venividi noticed it.
That's a fair point.
Big pot on table 2. I'm just kidding, by the way. Whoever said that. I'm just messing around. And Phil folds another river.
Oh no. It was for sure a thing in Heads Up No Limit for a couple of years that the river raise was extremely on trend among like
It was
the
popular.
high stakes regulars. Yeah, like it was just
It was
getting
in.
used so much. Yeah, you know how like what would be in maybe like betting real small. Block betting is like in right now. There was a time where in Heads Up No Limit, raising the river was really in. Just like any block or any spot, just go for it. Make the big bluff. People caught on pretty quick though. They stopped folding so much.
Well, we've got another big pot, table 2. Phil raising that big pot even bigger. Venividi calls. Phil shows down the nut straight. They both have it. Chop it up.
A little small river bet there, but he must have thought he just wasn't getting paid off when he had all the queens in his hand.
Fish 2K says, I'm going to close my eyes and rest. Let me know when a big hand is happening. Thanks, casters. Should we play like there's a big hand happening when there isn't?
Yeah, that seems like kind of just have to.
Okay. We've got a 3-bet on table 2 and a 4-bet. 5-bet all in. It's called. This is the biggest. Ah, got him. We got him, guys. It's just a regular $11.99. So many people weren't paying attention, came back to their computers. That's why you got to watch the whole show. Let that be a lesson to you. Table 1 does have an okay pop, Bruin. Action on Phil on this fairly meaningless river card. Just transfer says, lol, you made me time out of my day. Is this just a 10 going to win that hand?
Just a 10, yeah.
Wowee.
Kind of surprised that, I mean, maybe the river bluffs just have not been working that well for Phil in this match, so he is starting to perhaps like pump the brakes a little bit, or just doubt himself a little bit on those kind of bluffs.
It's hard not to get snake bit eventually once something you do fails multiple times.
Yeah, and it's also possibly just the right decision to start giving up sometimes.
Oh
Because
yeah, good point. Good
maybe
point.
Venividi
Well made.
actually thinks that Phil bluffs too much and was adjusting by calling too much.
That's an excellent point, K-Rab. K-Rab sounds like a West Coast radio station. You're listening to KARA. All the best hits of the 80s, 90s, and today. KRAB, 22 minutes to the top of the hour. Traffic and weather on the 7s. 2 for Tuesday. Splash the winnings, double up if Phil Galfond can pull out the wind here on KRAB. $10,000 in the middle, table 2 on the turn. After this terribly pot-sized bet. I don't mean the bet's terrible. I just mean it is terribly pot-sized.
And here I'm not expecting to see Phil give up, even if he was bluffing. That deuce is as blank as they come. So if his
Phil
hand was
does
good enough to
not give
pop the
up.
turn, it's very likely following through on the river.
This is all of the follow-through. If anybody calls, Phil shows aces and 7s, but he loses. He's pipped to ace-king. Yikes. Another massive pot shipped to Venividi.
And I think that's good. I think that's good recognition by Venividi to just call on the turn with ace king. Phil's just going to be following through so much on that board texture, and there were no flush draws, so he doesn't have to raise. That's just that's a really tough spot. Well played hand by him.
Credit where credit is due to Venividi. He's got almost 90,000 in front of him right now. Phil Galfond, once again, in the deep red now for this match, this session. Just waiting for those stats to update. And it's not going to be good. Down about 14,000 before that happened. And he's involved in another big pot on table 1. He's been raised on the river. A lot of not like this happening in chat, and looks like Phil is going to lose another on table 1. Yikes. Phil now down 41,000 for the session. I don't think it's taken into account the second big hand yet.
Yeah, I think it's more at this point. Saw a couple people in chat asking about that ace-7 versus ace-king hand where Phil went all in on the river and got called by ace-king. I don't know the equity well enough to say for sure, but I can say pretty confidently that he's probably just in a tough spot because his hand is maybe doesn't even have 50% equity, but still wants to go all in for value because he can't check fold, and it's only like a pot size bet, which needs he needs 33% equity to check and call. So if it's a blank river and he sometimes get called by worst and sometimes just gets called by better, he can still go all in for value with just like 35-40% equity when called, and I feel like that was kind of the spot. Just hoping that he runs into worst 2 pair or something, which would check if he checked.
Yeah, obviously we can commend Venividi for his play there, but I think from Phil's perspective, he's doing what he said he would do. He's still playing his game.
Yeah.
He's not making crazy adjustments because he doesn't feel as if it's necessary. The 6-10 for the straight for Phil. We have got a 4-bet alert on table 2.
I was gonna say the four-bet alert was a little louder last time. Yeah.
Hold on. There it is, 10,000
And
already in
on
the
this
middle.
board, like, Benny's just going to put it in really, really often, so we're just hoping that Phil flops something good.
Flop to something good. There's the C-bet for Venividi.
And I don't know that he always bets small here. If he had a hand that needed protection, he might just go full pot.
Phil
But here, yeah, he
calls,
gives.
queen of diamonds on the turn. Another bet. This one full pot from Venividi. Phil calls. Phil had
There we
flopped
go.
a set of nines. Venividi misses the club flush draw. Phil doubles up. Of course, I had my sounds on to play the horn, and of course I get a text while it's happening. God dang it.
It's okay. The excitement in chat is still there. This is exactly the good spot that I was talking about for Phil. Gets 20 minutes of deep stack at 2 tables.
And they are pretty deep on table 1 and table 2. Obviously, Phil being the effective stack at both tables, but much closer on table 1. Yeah, two big pots on 2 tables, and Phil's back in the green. Potmaster said that was a good hand to call a 4-bit with if you ain't no B word.
Yeah, I don't know much about pre-flop strategy in PLO, but I feel like you just don't fold with a drawing hand. Any decent draw, you gotta. And it'd be worse if he had like an ace in his hand, because he doesn't want to just have a dead card against aces, but he's got 4 live cards against aces, so.
15K pot on table 1 goes check, check, and Venividi. Oh, no, excuse me.
Yeah, Phil had the
Phil
small
wins that
set
one.
there. Yeah, nice hand.
This match, not the most common story of the Galfond Challenge, which has just been sort of a straight red day all day, but this one a similar story to other days we've seen with a big chunk of green followed by a massive downswing and then struggling, gasping for air to approach even as the day closes out. Showdown on table 2. Phil's missed everything. Great Chat Pro Saturday comment from Lamari. Well, actually, I bet that Phil didn't know how good Venny was when he agreed to the stupid rule of breaking stacks, because that's one of the main things that why Phil is losing. Yeah. Chat Pro Saturday, 5-figure pot on the turn, 17,000 on table 1. Phil does not have a pot size bet left behind. Will Venividi put them all in on this Ace of Hearts river? He does indeed. All in the call for Phil. The lack of snap call here, I do not find reassuring. Phil folds. Oh boy, you guys, this is
Plenty of hands there where he just like doesn't even have a decision to make because he doesn't even have a hand that can catch bluffs. It's pretty tough.
we have a 4-bet alert. Hello, 4-bet alert. Thank you. Love me a pre-flop 4-bet. 6-5 deuce, 2 spades, and a pot bet from Venividi. Phil raises all in. Venividi calls. Phil with the spade draw up against aces.
Flop straight for Phil.
Also flopped the straight.
Yeah, huge hand.
Thank you. Straight holds. All right, guys, 2-minute warning. 2 minutes until the agreed upon quitting time for today. And we've got a chunky pot happening on table one. Chunky Brewster. Punker. Punker. Sorry, it's probably 3 people that get that reference. 7,000.
I've probably gotten like 1 out of 4 references, but just had no idea what that one.
Yeah, don't worry about it. River's a 10 on table one. Looks like Phil's down about 25K this session. Check on the river. Phil's set of kings is the best hand. Big pot, table two. Oh, I'm allergic to river raises.
You called that before the raise went in.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what it means. Sneezing is considered good luck in some cultures. That's going to do it on table two. Phil's going to squeak out a small profit for that last couple of minutes on both tables, but that is not going to be enough to put him in the green for today. It's another day in the red for Phil Galfond.